came. And my main point of interest in nutrition is childhood obesity. And in our nutrition advisory board in Herbalife, we have more or less 30 members. We are 30 doctors, and we have many expertises. So we have sport doctors, we have pediatric doctors, we have geriatric cardiovascular doctors, skin doctors, psychologist doctors. So we have two roles in our mission in Herbalife. One is to train Herbalife independent members on health and lifestyle. And the second role is to advise the company on the best practices and the most important keys of interest around the world. Okay, the trend. And as I was so well introduced, my name is Nataniel. I am from Brazil, but a little piece of my heart now belongs to Malaysia. Wow. And I work in many fields as a doctor. I work at my office. I work at the hospital. I have a chief post in the nutrition department of the hospital of my city. I teach in some universities. And I got nothing to do between midnight to 6 o'clock in the morning, so I write some books. And the most important thing that I'm doing nowadays is making part of Herbalife Advisory Board, because when I decide to be a doctor, I decide to be a doctor to help people to live better and longer. And when I'm working alone with my patients at my office, I can help 50, 100 persons per week. When I'm teaching at my university, every year I can help to educate 50 doctors and 50 dietitians. But in this mission in Herbalife, you see now we are working together in more than 90 countries, almost 5 million of agents of changes. So I'm very proud that every country I go, every people that I talk, I wanted to plant a little seed, and every time that I come back to the place, I hope that the seed became a beautiful flower. And I will start to speak on childhood obesity, letting you know that I'm seeing patients with high blood pressure, changes in blood fat profile like cholesterol, triglycerides, and I'm seeing patients with insulin resistance. So you may think, okay, doctor, you are a heart expert, or you are seeing adults and older people. And unfortunately not. I am a nutritional pediatric expert, and this is the cover of my, never last, but my newest book. Is in Portuguese, Childhood Obesity, the Practicing Guide. And I'm seeing patients very young, 5 years old, 7 years old, with all those medical complications. And a few years ago, when I went to a medical congress and start to say that I'm seeing patients that young with that complications, everybody used to say, "Oh, that's impressive. That is unbelievable." Nowadays, I mean, in the last 5 or 10 years, it is very, very common. Even here in Malaysia, you know, I've been in a radio interview a few hours ago, and we are talking about that in Malaysia we have more or less 30% of children overweight. And Malaysia is, in South Asia, is the country that have more, even adults and children overweighted and obese. So we unfortunately are the champions studies on child and adult obesity. And it's not, nobody's surprised that even very young persons, I'm talking about 7, 8, 12 years old, nowadays suffering with these medical complications. And everything begins with the body composition and the increase of fat inside the body, mainly the abdominal fat. Let's try to understand a little bit what happens with this new area. This author, Jitz, is from American Heart Association, and he says that more than 60% of obese children has at least one heart disease risk factor. So each 10 children, we're going to find 6 with or hypertension or hyperlipidemia, you know, it's the increase of cholesterol and triglyceride, or hyperinsulinemia, is insulin resistance, the difficult to handle with glucose in the body. So in medical language, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, hyperinsulinemia, we call it metabolic syndrome. So 60% have metabolic syndrome. That is a very important heart disease risk factor. 20% have 2 or more factors. 20% have 2 heart disease risk factors. And this is very sad but true. Many young people, 15, 16 people old, believe that smoke cigarette helps to lose weight. So we can see many children, it happens in many countries, probably here in Malaysia also, start to smoke cigarettes on believing that it's a tool to help to control weight. So in red we can see metabolic syndrome and smoking. All those are very serious risk factor from heart disease. And remember, we are talking on 12, 14, 15, 16 years old person. So it's very, very important. This is a joke that someday you're going to have a kid cigarette, but it's very serious. And this is a 1939 photograph. You know, this is a chubbiness contest. It's a concourse to see which parents have the most obese children. So this is the judge commission, and you can see in 1939, it's a Brazilian photography, parents used to bring their babies to the judge commission, decide who was the most chubby. What it means, in 1939, many parents believe that when we are in front of a chubby children, we are in healthy and probably more protected children against infection or malnutrition. My point is, few years ago, many families, they got proud to have obese children, because it talks about that the family is well, the family take good care of the baby. Unfortunately, nowadays we are seeing kids like this. Now we call it X kids. It came from metabolic syndrome, X kids. And this body fat excess, World Health Organization nowadays claims like one of the major public health issues we have all around the world. And only to remember you, obesity is not weight. Obesity is the amount of fat in body. Mainly in children, because we can see 10 years old girl with 60 kilos, and you can see 11 years old boy with 90 kilos. So the weight is not that important. how the body composition, the amount of fat. And this fat, mainly here in abdominal fat on the waist region, is the most dangerous to have. Okay? We have it in many countries. The country number one in childhood obesity nowadays is Mexico. Mexico have more or less 60% of children overweight. After Mexico came the US with more or less 50%. And Brazil and Malaysia, we are in the same range, 30%. So unfortunately, in the third world country, the childhood obesity is increasing faster than in developed country. So if you do nothing to change this reality, probably next years we're going to be very close to Mexico and US. Okay, this is only to show the secular trends that even in young or bigger children, the obesity is growing decade per decade and always growing. This is the last World Health Organization data, and worldwide we have now more or less 10% of children overweighted. And you notice that when I'm talking in overweighted and obese, there is two levels of disease. In adult, we use the body mass index as cut point, but in child we use some charts with gender and age. So we calculate the body mass index, dividing weight for the height, again for the height, and we put in this graphic so we can see if the children is overweighted or obese. And you see Asia in the Pacific region, we are in the best than America and Europe, but Malaysia data is very close to Europe. We are in this range in this country. So we're going to see in a few minutes that is very concerning issue, because these overweight and obese children are under risk now while they are children, and in the next future when they became adults. Okay? This is the Brazil data, only to show that the childhood obesity is in green increasing and malnutrition decreasing. 20 years ago, when I started to study childhood obesity, everybody says that I was crazy because the most important nutritional issue at that time was malnutrition. And nowadays in Brazil, we have 9 overweighted children for 1 poor nutrition children. So the undernutrition is decreasing and the obesity is growing. And when we facing some children like this, we see it's not aesthetic or beauty subject, but we are in front of a very sick and concerned situation. Okay, so we used to split the obesity in child complications in two those that happens now while they are children in the infants, and the second complications when they became adults. So in childhood and adolescence complication, you can see orthopedic alterations like knee, basis, bone, spine. I will show you something on this. Skin alterations. Many chubby kids, when they walk, they used to scratch one leg and other, so they can make a lot of rushes in the leg. And the very obese children have some difficulties to clean and to dry their body by the skin folds. So it's easy to become with some infections. Sleeping disorders like sleep apnea, respiratory disorders, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol and triglycerides alteration, and maybe, you know, the most powerful medical complication on childhood could be the emotional disorder. I mean, the nicknames, the discrimination, the jokes that one kid used to do with other on the school. Many times we have children obese that when became adults is obese no more, and still have some scars and some emotional situations by this lack of self-esteem and self-image. And when they became adult, we know that a children that is 2 years old and is obese have more or less 50% of chance to become an adult obese. And if these children reach the adult life like an obese person, the chances increase to 80%. So many people used to ask me, when is the best time to start to fight in this childhood obesity? And the answer is yesterday, as soon as possible. So every medical complications we have, yesterday mommy was asking me, what is clothing problems? Imagine that a chubby kid sometimes got difficult to tie the shoes, or they cannot find some clothes that fit. So this is very powerful for life quality. So obesity is a very, very bad disease. Okay? Just talking on diabetes, a children who reach the adulthood life obese, I mean, she was obese while a children and achieved the adulthood, 25, 28 years old, still obese. This person will have 30 times more chance to become with diabetes than a person in good shape. And after this, if this person still gain more 20 kilos in subsequent life, the risk grows 80 times. It's no more risk, it's like a certain that this person is going to develop some diabetes in one moment of its life. So when I started to study nutrition, we used to call diabetes 1 the young diabetes and diabetes 2 the adulthood diabetes. Nowadays, 30% of the new cases in US and in Asia is the same. 30% of the new cases of type 2 diabetes came from children. So we cannot say anymore that it's an adult diabetes, because we are seeing it very soon in life. Okay? Those are these orthopedic complications. This is a healthy kid. You can see here's the center of gravity. And when the children became obese, to centralize the balance of the body, you can see you need to incline the basis bone, and this curve on the spine is much bigger here than here. It's like a pregnant woman. So when you get pregnant, you need to open your legs and put the bags for what? To balance your gravity center. So we are talking about a body that is still growing. Many times this kind of, you can see you need to open your legs and close the knees. even that you became obese no more, you can rest all your life carrying these orthopedic problems too, only because you was obese when children. Sleep apnea.
I have a question, a very quick one. It's a picture that you showed before this.
Feel free.
So once someone has actually lost all that weight, right, would the body shift back to find a different center of gravity?
Yes, but what happens, imagine that our bones are still growing. Sure thing, when you lose weight, your balance, you can notice in adult people who lose weight, he starts to walk very easily, but as those joints and bones are on growing, you can see that these changes can remain forever. Like imagine like a tree that some branches, even that the tree grows, if you have some issue on the branch, it remains forever. So it's very important to prevent here. And about sleep apnea, adults who don't sleep good at night became sleepy all day long. Children with sleep apnea, they got difficult on concentration, to focus. So they cannot pay attention to the teachers, to parents. So many hyperactive children have this sleep apnea. And when you improve the weight, you improve the sleeping and the mood, the humor improves a lot. And this is a El Greco painting. The name in Spanish is Maria Fernanda de Monster. In Spanish is La Monstra. Maria Fernanda de Monster, naked and with dress. This is in the Prado Museum in Madrid. And imagine, put yourself in the place of this little girl who the painting was painting her in 17th century, naked and with her dress, and call her the monster. So you see these nicknames, this prejudice, this discrimination, it becomes for all life long. You can see that she is not happy. I learned that for she to stay for El Greco paint her, you can see they put some breads and candies in her hands, so she remained quiet. So it's to express how there's emotional suffering is the major, and this is very important because when I'm talking to children, I cannot say the children that you got to move or change your lifestyle because you're going to be with gallstones or be with diabetes type 2 when you be older. But when you talk about the suffering that they're feeling, they do want to change and improve lifestyle. Okay? So this is a paper we published in Brazil just to showing that we saw 789 young people, and 80% of those are overweighted. 4 in each 5, they have some depressive signs. I mean, like lack of self-esteem or losers feelings. And in the people with normal weight, only 20% of those adolescents have something in the mood. So we can show that the worse is the body composition, the worse is the health of the feelings and the psychology health of the patient. So summarizing and inadequate diet with sedentarism, we find obesity. Eat junky food and remain all day long seated in front of a screen. And here we have a television set, but the screen could be a video game, a computer. The American Pediatric Academy recommends no more than 1 hour daily in front of a screen. I don't know here in Malaysia, but in Brazil it's easy to find some children that remains 5 or 6 hours every day in front of a television set. We used to say like an electronic babysitter, you know, while daddy and mommy goes to work, the television or the video game keep taking care of the children. So in adulthood, we used to say that to face an adult obesity, 80 or 70% is nutrition and 20 or 30% is exercise. In children, this range is different. Maybe 50% you need to improve diet and 50% you need to increase the waste of energy. Sedentarism is a very important. Many obese people, many obese children don't eat that bad. If you compare obese children with normal weight children, you can see that the difference they used to have is not that big. But the waste of energy patterns, the sedentarism is very different. And we have some special things on this that we're going to discuss. So when we increase the body fat, we have these metabolic alterations that we saw, risk factors of cardiovascular disease, and in such young people, we are seeing type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, and hypertension. And here, it's very important what Robin asked me. In this case, if I improve children body composition, I am treating the diabetes, the insulin resistance, and hypertension. It's different from the orthopedic that remains. If we are in front of obese children and we prevent or we fight against this obesity, we are preventing this medical complication. So, what used to be the romantic times of childhood obesity? Romantic times 20 or 25 years ago, when I was taking care of obese children, I used to say, okay, let's only weight maintenance. I mean, stop, gain weight, and still growing. We are going to take care of the obesity. And nowadays it is not more possible, this approach, and I will show you why. This is Aviva Must. Aviva Must is a professor in Harvard. She's a very close friend. And Aviva Must have this recommendation for weight management. So if you are in front of a children 2 to 7 years old, here we have overweighted and here we have obese. So 2 to 7 years old, if it's overweighted, we can do the romantic approach. I mean, weight maintenance and growing in height. If you are 2 to 7 years old in front of obese children over the percentile 95, with no medical complication, no hypertension, no hyperinsulinemia, no orthopedic, we can weight maintenance. And if we have any of those complications, 2 to 7 years obese with some complication, we need to reduce weight. And 7 years or more, Aviva Must is even more, she raised the bar. And so if you are in front of overweighted children, 7 years or more, with no medical complication, we can do the weight maintenance. But don't need to be obese, only overweighted. If we already have some medical complication, we need to reduce weight. And 7 years or more, if you are in front of obese children, we need to reduce weight. And the question is why? And the answer is because the longitudinal studies that observe these children for 10, 20, even 30 years show that children at this age that are with medical complication and obese get shorter life and worse medical complication. So when we are in front of obese children, 7 years or more, we need to reduce weight to improve life quality. And this is a strong message to father, to mother, to grandfather, grandmother, because we are talking about our next generation future. So how can we deal? How can we, if we are in front of obese children, how can we fight against it? We have a triangle treatment, 3 parts. Both are very, very important. The 3 parts are very important. We can change I used to say the diet button. We can change the physical activity button. We can increase physical activity and changes in behavior. This is very important because we already saw that bad diet is risk factor for obesity. Sedentarism is a risk factor for obesity. But I want to let you know that stress is a major factor of risk for childhood obesity. You know, when a children or adult person, when we are under stress, the levels of cortisol, it is an hormone produced by our suprachydney glands, increases. And cortisol makes us hungry, and cortisol makes our body to store fat. And you know as well as I do that nowadays our children are sometimes more busier than us. They have a schedule, a lot of classes, a lot of a lot of appointments. They live in a very competitive world. They need to be the best on the school, the best on the sports, the best on on the fashion. So they live a very stressful life. And this is a major risk factor for childhood obesity. And got to do with stress is the sleep quality. You know, we used to say that a children and an adolescent that sleep with good quality, less than 8 hours daily, they are in risk to develop obesity. And who have children or kids at home knows that with Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram, everything, they wake up very early in the morning to go to school and go to sleep very late at night because they keep on the social webs. And this is all around the world. So many children has the television set on their own sleepy room. So many parents imagine that the children are sleeping and they are watching television 2 o'clock in the morning. So all those behavior we need to face. And if the treatment is a triangle, the triangle basis is family. We used to say that obesity is made at home. The family is very important because we have 2 risk factors here. Genetics You know, if both parents are obese, the children have 70 or more chances to become obese. If only one of the parents, mother or father, are obese, we have only 50% of chance. If anyone, any father or mother are obese, the chances goes for less than 10%. So genetic is very important, but the environment also. I have another picture like this, that we have a fat cat here, and we imagine that the family got nothing genetic to do with the cat, but the cat living at the same, you see, environment with junky food and sedentarism behavior. So at my office in Brazil, I used to say that when I start to see obese children, I want to see everyone who shares the refrigerator with these children. It's very important that I talk to mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, brother, sister, friends, maid. So all this, because it's impossible to change this reality if everyone at home is not at the same page, you know? So which are the treatment goals? When I'm working on obese children, what I'm trying to do? So as Aviva must say, I'm a weight maintenance or slow weight loss. It depends on those cases I show you. Diet re-education. We're going to talk a little bit the difference on re-education and restrictive diet. Lifestyle changes, increase physical activity, reduce the comorbidities to protect the joints, to prevent hypertension, and prevent adult obesity. So those are when I say that, okay, I have a good result with childhood obesity, I got to face